Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello and welcome to Business Connections Live, the programme for entrepreneurs, SMEs and business owners. Now, let me ask you a question. This is very important. Do you understand how your business is performing at the moment? Do you know its cash requirements right now, this very instant? And a question that a lot of people seem to ask you, do you have an exit plan? If you're asking yourself those questions, maybe you've said no, no, no. Or if at least if you said no to one of them, then perhaps you need to be watching the whole of this programme. Joining me in the studio today is Theodore Gray. She's the Business Solutions Manager from OI Business Solutions. And we're going to be looking at how to overcome the obstacles of business growth. Is that a fair way that I've introduced you there? That because there are a lot of people in business theatre that really do not know what is going on in their business, do they?
Absolutely, Steve. Business owners are busy. Are they planning? Are they prioritising? Do they know what's working or not? And it's really taking the time to step away from the business, assess what's going on, and saying, well, if we appraise what's going on now, how to best inform the decision going forward.
Well, listen, that's what we're going to be talking about over the next hour. Let's find out a little bit about you. I can tell that you're not from these fine shores. There's a bit of an accent there. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Durban in South Africa.
You've come over here to the drizzle and the rain.
Great weather. I've come for the great weather.
What, here? are we talking about the same place? And what is it that you are? You're actually an accountant, aren't you?
So my background is finance, and I use the discipline that I've been trained in to apply what I do with business owners. But I love to combine that with the creative side of a business owner who does what they love, but maybe doesn't apply the discipline behind that. So I think it's really nice to work in a fun way, but have the anchor behind you and knowing what the mechanics are behind the business, so you can work well and complement the business owner.
Do you think, because there are different types of people that go into businesses, there are some that will cut costs to grow a business, there are some people that will go in and be entrepreneurial in their spirit to grow the business. What approach do you take when you go in?
I think it's really important to always go in and understand what the business owner would like to achieve, if not ultimately at the end of the process that they have their business, but what they want to do now and enjoy it. Because a lot of business owners do find they're tied to the business, they're not really getting where they want to, they're not getting the traction they want. So it's really achieving and helping them achieve what they'd like to. And the way you do it is saying, well, if we put this much effort in, it's really convincing that business owner to put a bit of time and effort in to their business and invest it in themselves as well. Creating something called a business case. So for this much effort, what will you get out of it? Rather than thinking always of the cost.
Now, when they meet you, they're obviously going to say, you are proficient in a discipline, but your experience is quite large, isn't it, and quite broad as well. So just give us a little bit of background to that, because you're not just going in there and telling them how to look after the pounds and shillings.
Absolutely.
You've run a business, haven't you, effectively?
Correct. So I started off working in the family business. When I started off in South Africa, a couple of family businesses, very successful businesses, and there's so much to do, and you do have to stretch yourself, and there tends to be things you're good at. However, it's really, really important to be able to know what you're good at and then know when to get the help in. And a business owner, tends to have to do a lot themselves. But I combine that with the fact that I've worked in multinational companies as well. So not only have I worked in a family business, that means you do have to stretch yourself and do so much, but I've worked in the corporate space where you do see best practice and you see the cutting edge of things. All
right, so you go on your own. You then end up working for OI Innovations and Business Innovations. So what is it that you see when you go out there? You go into many businesses. Is there a common mistake that many companies or many organisations make or many entrepreneurs make when they start their business, and you go, there we go, got my checklist out, tick. That's the mistake I see the most. What is it that you see?
Well, I usually see a really busy business owner, maybe not prioritising, maybe not planning, maybe not taking the time out to see what is working, what isn't, and the end picture in mind. They're probably so absorbed in the now, they don't tend to take the time to say, what do I want to do at the end of this? What would I like to achieve? So it's really about finding someone who's so busy they don't always have the time to step back, appraise what they'd like to do in the business. Perhaps they want to hand the business down to their kids or get other people involved in the business. Perhaps they actually want to step away and make a lifestyle choice. But if they're so immersed in that business, how would they ever do that?
Is that because that to a certain extent today's modern business owner for a small business they're going to be entrepreneurial for a start, but they haven't gone into business for business's sake. They've gone into business because maybe they've got a great idea, a great product, a great service, and do they get lost, do you think, in the product and the service, and they nearly put on the back burner the running of the business?
Yeah, I liken running your business to a finely tuned machine. So if you're running a business and you're doing what you love, do you know when to change gear? Do you know what's working in the vehicle of your business? Do you know how to best get the most out of your business? And I think a lot of business owners are really just getting on with it and doing what they need to.
So what they did yesterday, they do again today.
Yeah.
It's that old expression, isn't it? If you keep doing what you're doing today, you'll get more of what you got yesterday, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how then? I mean, because that means that you're going in and you're changing the mould, and I would imagine a lot of the business owners are going to be quite set in their ways, I would imagine. Is it a big job then to turn that tanker around? And it can be a single man tanker nearly, I would imagine, or a single woman tanker. They're going to be quite fixed in the way that they are doing their business. What are the things that you normally see that they should be considering and looking at?
So Steve, I tend to look at the business owner and ask them questions and find out their burning issues, what keeps them awake at night. And usually they have a propensity to want to change, to want to do something. They know in their heart of hearts their business could do better. They could spend a bit more time improving the mechanics of the business. And it's really tapping into that thought pattern and saying, if you spend the focus on this, how much can you get out of this stream of thought, and really looking at the growth pattern of the business, looking at where best to grow the business, and cleverly, rather than just doing more of the same, there's something you could do, and that is making a really informed decision of what is working well product-wise or service-wise, and growing that business and achieving those dreams that you want to as a business owner. So it's stepping back, asking the right questions, and partnering with that person to tap into all the things they know of anyway, and perhaps they just don't know where to get the help.
What's the first question you answer when you go in there? Do you start at the end and then work your way back to the present, or do you start where they are? And the reason I ask that is that you get a lot of people who will come along and they'll say, have you thought about your exit plan? Do you know what are you trying to achieve? So where do you start when it comes to that kind of planning? Do you start at the end and ask them that?
I tend to ask them what they'd like to achieve themselves in their life, because I think it's really important, if you're going to do something you love, and business owners do what they love, if they're really tied in with what they wanted to achieve, it does help marry up what they'd like to achieve in their business. So with that, and then looking at a longer term piece where they do think, well, if I've got a family, I'd like to take over the business, but I'm not too sure. They're not doing board meetings. They don't really know what to look at. They don't really know the great cloud software there is out there, and so on. I mean, there's just so much that they could get help with. It's really getting them to see what they'd like to achieve first and foremost as a priority, because they usually have some burning issues that probably aren't being addressed.
Well, one of the things that you said to us was that most business owners, well, as you've just said there, are not necessarily planning ahead, they're not prioritising, and they're just running out of time.
Yeah.
Is time management then the evil thing that comes into every business, that people just don't have enough time? We can be very busy here doing processes and not particularly busy doing sales. But we are very, very busy. So do you see that in similar businesses? Do you go in there and you think, busy fools, isn't it? I suppose it's the expression sometimes, because the processes aren't in place. Do you see that?
Yeah. So if you look at the business and the strategy of the business owners may not have a strategy in place. They may not have a growth plan. They may not actually know what their priorities are in terms of the things they look at, and it's looking at the whole thing as an ecosystem. The business has processes, people, cogs, communication systems, and loads of other things that work as a whole piece that needs to be looked at. So if you have a strategy that informs other things like the whatever they're doing in terms of their offering, if they really know what they want to achieve, that can inform their priorities. And as you say, if you're really a busy fool and working out, you're just doing the same as you did last year, is that really what you wanted to achieve? Or if you spent time stepping away from the business to plan really carefully, doing the same thing but achieving 20% more or 10% more, why not do it that way?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll come back and we're going to discuss a little bit more about maybe how you can get your time management in place. We're also going to be looking at some of the elements when it comes to what you should be doing when it comes to your cash flow, whether you should be aware of that. Of course you should. And your sales and everything else that goes around running a successful business is still to come on this edition of Business Connections Live. Stay with us. And I hope you're enjoying today's program. It's a cracking show as always, and real insight into what is going on when it comes to running a business today. If you are a small business owner, I think that the big difference between being a small business owner and working within the corporate environment is, to a certain extent, the corporate environment is very much a case of it's, what you did today you will do tomorrow and you'll do the day after that. If you're a small business owner, things can change on a daily basis. And also small business owners sometimes will come across that feast or famine. One moment you are so busy and therefore you can't concentrate on growing sales, and then at a later date, of course, you've got the time to actually concentrate on maybe marketing your business, but then what have you got? Maybe it's a 12-week wait to get those sales to come in. So it's a tricky situation. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about more about how you should plan, manage, and also allow your business to grow. Now, last week's programme was an absolutely cracking show. We had Jeff Downs. He's the Managing Director of Quantum Sales, a jolly man. He came in and we were talking about how to professionally do B2B selling. It was a cracking show. If you're in that environment, if you are business to business, and that's what you're trying to do, you're trying to grow your business to do that. What about your sales team? Are they the most appropriate sales team? Are they being effective? Are you managing your sales team to be as effective as they possibly could be? Or are they just doing the same old thing day in, day out? There is an old expression about sales teams, isn't there? When you employ somebody that's maybe got 20 years of sales experience, the danger is that what you're actually employing is somebody who has got 1 year of sales experience and has repeated it 20 times. So they haven't grown in the market that they're in. It was a cracking show. If you want to find out more, you can watch the entire programme by going to businessconnectionslive.com. But if you just want a little bit of a taster, here's what happened on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. On today's show, we're going to be discussing professional B2B selling and sales leadership. In the past, we've talked a lot about the selling techniques that are out there, how you should go about it. But today we're going to be looking at a more high level. How do organizations and companies, how do they sort of step back for a moment and get maybe sometimes the right sales professionals? And what should you be expecting from them? How can you maybe support them and make them the professionals that you need for your business? Join me on today's program is Jeff Downs. He's the Managing Director Director of Quantum Sales.
Well, I see it as absolutely vital in terms of maximising shareholder value, but also in terms of maximising the potential of individuals. And if you get it right, you know, in a sense, it makes the rest of the marketing effort so much easier. The fact is that most salespeople will regress to mediocrity unless they're managed properly. They need managing, and more importantly, they need leading to fulfil their potential. And actually, to leave a good performing salesperson alone is probably one of the most common mistakes that we see. Whether you are a CEO with a board of directors around you and then delegating through a sales management team, or whether you're the owner of an SME and you've got a sales manager reporting to you, the principle is exactly the same. And you know, the first thing I would say is be very clear about what you want and what's the purpose of the selling operation. And of course that should emanate initially from the strategy of the company, but then the piece around sales and marketing. And then with regard to sales, what value do you want your selling operation to actually add? If you look at the impact of the internet, for example, research shows now that 58% of all buying decisions are made before they meet the salesperson. Right? So it's based on the research. So if the information these days is being gathered using the web, then what's the added value of the salesperson? Even if there was no change in the market, because of the misunderstanding of what the sales team actually do and how they do it, selling can be to a lot of business owners and boards a bit of a dark art. Every single member of your sales team is unique, and therefore you have a unique selling point and a point of differentiation that you cannot achieve with the rest of the marketing mix, if you like, in terms of product and advertising, those things. So I think a recognition that salesperson is in fact a unique resource, and one that should be led accordingly and motivated accordingly. Well, this is where the role of sales leadership is so important. First, we have to make sure we, for want of a better term, educate the sales management team around what makes human beings tick, what they need to do to be a good leader. Well, first of all, one of the most common mistakes that senior management makes is that thing of promoting your most successful salesperson automatically into a sales management role. I'm Jeff Downs, I'm the Managing Director of Quantum Sales. We've been working with selling operations in the B2B space over the last 25 years, and we've been helping to improve sales in terms of growing sales, in terms of growing profitable sales, and getting sales teams to sell value. In terms of the way we go about that, I think the most important points are at board level, be clear about what you want from your sales team, in terms of the results that they have to bring in, the value that they add. That might be to do with customers, products, levels of profitability and growth. And then at a sales management level, make sure that you've got sales leaders who can motivate their salespeople, who can understand each individual and how they're different and what style of management needs to be used with them. And importantly, have the machinery in place to be able to manage sales activity in terms of the quantity, direction and quality of that activity. And then at the front end, recognise that if salespeople are going to produce ongoing, improved results and fulfil their potential, they will need good quality coaching. So don't have your sales managers staring into a computer or working out the numbers from the CRM system. Have them out there 60% of the time coaching their salespeople.
Jeff Downs, Managing Director of Quantum Sales, talking about successful business-to-business selling, and a really good show. Don't forget, if you wanted to get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live, you can. If you'd like a show just like this one about your business, well, why don't you contact us here at the studio? You can email us if you wish at studio@businessconnectionslive.com. If you want to have a chat with myself or Linda Bazant, then you can give us a call on 01784 256 777. If you want to follow our train of consciousness, then follow us on Twitter at BCL Business TV. In fact, if you want to contact us, you can also send a direct message or DM to us, and we will respond to you there. And don't forget, something that we are finding truly successful at the moment, and a great way to engage your audience. If you haven't tried it yet, I do suggest that you go about doing it, is to have a look at Facebook. Facebook Live is what we're using. In fact, this program is going out on Facebook Live. We'd love to hear your comments. Please leave them below the individual programs on our business page. So that is facebook.com Business Connections Live, and you can find out more about what we're all about there on Facebook as well. You're watching Business Connections Live, and joining me in the studio today is Theda Gray, Business Solutions Manager of Business Solutions, looking at how to overcome the obstacles of business growth. Just before the break, we were talking a little bit about busy fools. Do you have any sort of key learnings when it comes to being a busy fool? Is it about organising, sorting out your processes, understanding what you need to be doing, documenting it all, and then following it?
Yes, it is really simple. If you've got a vision and you have a plan in place and you know what to do to put that in place, it's getting the machinery behind that set up so that you can achieve it. And it's really taking the effort and the focus. So I always tend to do a business case for an owner, saying if we step back, imagine achieving what you'd like to in the business.
Visualise it.
Visualise it, and let's start making it happen.
That's a really good technique, actually. Before you get there, you often hear the expression about giving your business a health check. Is that the kind of thing that you do? Is it about sitting down, and what are you looking at? Because your discipline is looking at the pounds, shillings and pence, for those people pre-decimal there, but the pounds, shillings and pence, is it we won't mention that, Brexit, but we'll walk away, we'll leave it there. But is that what you do when you go in? Do you sit down with the business owner? What are the typical questions that you will ask somebody?
So we look at a diagnostic that covers the whole business, and some of it is actually asking the business owner, do you know what to look at in terms of information? Do you have the information you need to make an informed decision? So there's a lot of information out there, but do you know some key bits of information you need to focus on in order to achieve your aims? And the questions we ask covers the whole business, so we can cover things like the motivations of the team. Does the business owner know what motivates the team? Do they know their financials? Do they know what to look at? So I would say to someone, where do you want to go? Where do you want to achieve in terms of your sales? What would you like to achieve? Are you taking out of the business what you'd like to? Do you actually plan ahead in terms of the dividends you take out, or does that end up being a byproduct of what you do at the end of the year? It's really about, are you enjoying working in the business, and really planning ahead and achieving that. So it's covering everything in a holistic fashion. And the things I tend to find business owners have is perhaps some historic information, not forward-looking. Perhaps they have very out-of-date information, and understanding things like key sales numbers or various client relationship management facets that can completely change your business. So it's really understanding where the key issues are in the business, because all business owners have their talents and they know that they're doing certain things right, and it's really just honing in on the things that aren't working so well across the whole business, but using the financials as a way of, with your stethoscope, if we can use that analogy, you know exactly, using the financials, some hardcore numbers, what is working and what isn't working well. And so, Steve, there are business owners who don't really know that there's cloud systems out there. Cloud systems are so much more affordable than what we have been used to in the last 20 years. When you say client systems,
what do you mean by that?
Cloud computing.
Cloud systems, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So it's really about making sure you know what's available to you. And I think the business owner, because they're busy and they're immersed in that business, they don't know the cutting edge techniques in their business and how they can best set things up to work so much smoother.
Do you find a lot of business owners that you talk to, they will do it because they do it that way, they will always do it that way, and they tend to take the long way round to achieving and completing a particular task?
I think if you get to the heart of the business owner, knowing what they want to achieve, you can end up doing something, which I'm doing with someone next week, and that is sitting down with them, looking at their cash forecast, because they've never really done that before and they realise the value of it. And if you're looking ahead and you know what is happening, your business can be more resilient. So you're not looking at something and just dealing with the firefighting or the whatever presents itself to you that day. It can make such a big difference looking ahead.
Isn't that the difficulty, though, that small businesses actually have? That when they look forward at cash forecasts, they're not truly in control of their own destiny a lot of the time. For instance, they may be dealing with large organisations who, while they go into the process of doing the sell and everything looks like it's all going to happen, and yes, they're going to take the product, they may delay that by a month or 2 months or 3 months. And then a lot of large organisations will nearly demand your terms may well be 30 days net, but there are large organisations out there that will demand and will not trade with you unless you agree to 120 days net or even longer.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that is taken away from the business owner.
So when you look at running a business, it's really understanding the whole idea of risk. And when you operate in a business, you can choose the marketplace and the space you're in. Yes, you've got competitors, yes, you've got clients, but you can manage and understand those things and align yourself best to withstand the risks and absorb those risks. But we don't tend to think of it that way. We tend to just roll with the punches, a bit like you'd, drive over a pothole with a car. And it's really saying, well, if you know where your risks are in your business, you can manage those.
So it is identifying those individual risks.
Correct.
If you understand that that's the way that particular client wants the payment terms to be, understanding that the client may change from the point of contact to the date of order may be a variable feast. But if you build that into your plan,
Absolutely.
then you should be able to absorb it. When you walk into a business, is there a KPI that you sometimes see and you go, I should really be walking out of this business. This is going to be a tough job. Is there one KPI that
I wouldn't say there's one size fits all for anything. So when we tend to look at businesses, we look at a bespoke KPI for that business owner, and it tends to be not one thing. I think it's really important to have a whole set of information, some key information that you know as a business owner. And it doesn't have to be, overload of information and overload of, various KPIs. It's knowing where you need to focus. So if you look ahead and you know various key issues to focus on, one KPI won't necessarily pick that up, but you can, by looking at something I call real-time information, you can really get a feel for what's going on ahead of time, rather than waiting for things to really come through in the financials or the numbers later on. And you tend to pick up things like sales and leads, and with your sales funnel you can pick up and diagnose various things going on ahead of time and start intervening there and then, rather than waiting for it to feed into, various things like when your turnover starts to really show what's going on in your business. So there are key signs that you can look at, warning signs, leading and lagging signs, and it's really good as a business owner to understand how everything is affected by what you do, and understanding those risks before you actually come across them.
Have you been able to identify those kind of things in businesses and then been able to say, right, well, what I'm going to do is you need to address this particular issue, and actually seen the turnaround because
Yes.
they've just identified, done very little, but just identified what the problems are?
Yes. So one of the business owners I spoke to didn't really know their break-even point. It's another key indicator of how well you are doing, and how it works is if you know what you need to sell in order to cover your costs, then beyond that you know what you're making profit-wise. And this particular business owner hadn't really taken the time with quite a big level of overhead, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds. And when you break it down by month, he, after a couple of sessions, he realised, I think the penny had dropped, he'd realised how much he needed to achieve every month with the two businesses he had in order to cover his costs before he then could make a profit.
Do you think a lot of businesses then sail very close to the wind? For instance, we were talking before we came on air today, we know how much it costs to put the key in the door to come into the studio here, to unlock the door. And we know that at weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, it costs that much on a Saturday and that much on a Sunday to actually just have the studio sitting here when we're off air. Do you think businesses really do comprehend that?
I don't think they revise it as often as they should, because just taking on one extra person, or depending on what is happening on your sales side, on your turnover, can affect that dynamic. So making sure you constantly review that and you really adapt what is going on in your business to align your break-even point, because if you are having a hard time in business and you do understand that there are things you can do about your break-even point, you can decide you're going to take various steps with various people in the sales team to work through those various issues, or you might decide to look at something else and decide to, you know, maybe downsize on your premises or whatever. So it's really making sure that you do understand that break-even point. But there is so much other information out there to business owners, and well, if you sat down with someone and said, do you understand your numbers? When you look at this P&L, does that make sense? Or do you furiously sign the paperwork that needs to be submitted every year? And
well, is that an issue that you see as well, that people don't understand how to read a P&L? Yeah. You know, you've got a profit and loss sitting in front of you. You know, do people just look at it vaguely as a bunch of numbers and don't really know what to do with it, or what that information, why it's so important?
Yes. So I have sat down with business owners who've probably been on a training course before, because doing what they've done, they've had to learn how to read the balance sheet, and honestly they didn't know what it meant. So we've sat down and looked through it and done one-to-one training on what it actually means. And in fact, one of the guys I was working with a couple of months ago said, is this the value? Is this my business value? He thought, you know, with his balance sheet, that was it. That was what it was. And I said, it's slightly more in-depth than that.
Listen, we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit more. I hope you're finding it really interesting. You're probably sitting there right now thinking, right, going to have to get the P&L out right now and have a look at it and see what's going on in my business. Am I making any profit, or is it all losses? It's still to come. Theda Gray is my guest on this edition of Business Connections Live. Well, as always, great, and talking about great business owners, Entrepreneur of the Year, I think, a year or so ago was the fabulous Kate Lester. If you've ever come across Kate, you know that she's a colourful character, and not to be trifled with, I can promise you that. Her operation is called Diamond Logistics. She's also franchised the operation out as well. So she has grown this business, and she has found it tough. She's had ups and she has downs, but she is extremely driven. And I think it's that drive that has carried her through this. But what she has done, she's identified the key things that she needs as an entrepreneur to grow her business. And maybe some of the advice that Kate can actually give you is going to be valuable in your business. One of the big bits of advice that she gives is all about talent management. How do you find the right people to support you, the right people to take maybe some of the pressures that we've been talking about away? You know, someone that does actually identify what those figures on your P&L is all about. Kate Lester, fascinating show. If you haven't seen the entire programme, do go to our website at businessconnectionslive.com. Just to give you a bit of a taster of the lady, this is Kate Lester.
Hi, my name is Kate Lester, and I'm the proud founder and CEO of Diamond Logistics. We're the UK's fastest growing courier company, and we enable businesses to deliver, whether it's parcels, their promises, or indeed their profits too. Now, as my takeaway for you guys as entrepreneurs, there's three key messages I really hope you take from today. Number one is, if you want a super successful business, then please make sure that your product and serviceable is saleable. And please make sure that you are the person that takes control of that sales pipeline, because nobody will care about it as passionately as you do. The other thing is that if you're looking at scaling your business, then you have to make sure that your mission, belief, and indeed your ethics are at the heart of what you're trying to do, because when you're trying to replicate your service, you want to make sure that all the stakeholders believe in that as passionately as you do. And number 3, think of your role as chief talent spotter, because if you pick the dream team that I've been lucky enough to recruit at Diamond, then I hope your business will fly just like ours is. Thanks very much.
And thank you very much indeed. Kate Lester there from Diamond Logistics, talking about her dream team. It's all about talent management, and a fantastic show to watch. She really does give an insight. It's actually one of those quite uplifting stories as well, because life did throw some difficult hurdles at her, and she got round them, over them, under them. She is an absolute battler, and she has grown to a multi-million-pound business now. A fantastic show. Do check out Kate Lester on Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Theodore Gray, Business Solutions Manager at OI Business Solutions, and we're looking at how to overcome the obstacles of business growth. We've been talking about a number of different aspects here on how you should be aware. Don't be a busy fool for a start. That's one thing. There are different KPIs that are important within your business as well that you've got to recognise, and right down to being able to read your P&L sheet. But something that you kind of alluded to at the end of the last part is understanding how to value your business. And I think there's a lot of people out there that don't understand. They think it's just the sales that may be going out today through their doors, and it's not about that. So how do you go about it? How do you approach that whole area of valuing your business?
If you think about the business as an entity that has a turnover, a team, and processes that work a certain way, I'll ask a question. Imagine going on holiday. What happens when you go away on holiday and you come back? Say you go away for, Steve, you go away for a couple of weeks or 10 days. What does it look like when you come back?
Well, it normally the worry is that while you're away, nothing's happening. That's what goes through your mind, and when you come back, you have a blind panic about what has happened. I don't know about you, but I always find when I come back off holiday, as I drive back to the house, I expect it to have been burnt down. So call me a pessimist perhaps, but there's always that worry. There is always the worry about leaving it because you're so hands-on.
The issue is with owner-managed businesses is they are the business. They tend to be so immersed in the business, they don't necessarily know how to set the business up so they can step away from the business.
Is this working in it and for it?
Yes. So if you look at this business and what it's doing, can it run without you? Do you have a team who knows how to support and cover you? In effect, it's really getting to the heart of the business. If you are the business and you'd like to do something with that business, it's really working out how you would step away if you wanted to. So, for example, if you had a team and you know how the cogs work, you know the processes that are put in place so that you can have sales still come through that door, and you can have orders still being taken or deliveries still being made. It's understanding that that business cannot just be you. It has to be the whole entity working, and you are probably just guiding it and making sure.
But that is the issue that some business owners have, isn't it? And particularly if you, and I hesitate at calling them businesses even though they are, but you've got these one-man operations who are providing services, and they are the business. There is no value without them because they are the value within the business. Whereas, I mean, we're sitting here, we're surrounded by technology, we've got a director sitting in our control room, we've got a producer, we've got all these people running around. I like to think that some of them might have some inkling on how to move it forward. But there's always this danger that as a business owner, you are the value. So how do you get around that?
There are various things that can be put in place, and I think it's really understanding who your team is. If you do want to step away, you need to be able to relinquish that control and in effect have a way of setting up some support behind you so that you've got people who can step in and do things. So the one-man band, looking at how they're set up, if you are a business owner and that is really, really what I term a micro business. There's a certain level of cover they could get. You could arrange something called business continuity planning around that, and knowing someone with a similar skill set to you can step in and cover for a key client. But what happens when you step away and that person has done a great job, you really do need to think ahead.
Is it a case of looking for ways to value and monetize the operation you have? For instance, internet marketeers, I suppose, the value of their business is in their list of customers.
Value is in many things, Steve, so it's not in one thing. And the more you have in terms of a robust way of, in a way, setting up a process and a way and a machine that allows you to step away and do more of the guidance and less on the operational side, it can make a huge, huge difference. So you could end up being the front face of the business, but the brand and the team that supports you and the processes and the systems behind that as an entity support you in that brand. So it's really nice. Have you seen, sorry to interrupt you, but have you seen where you've got a person who is the brand with a big team behind, but when that person steps away, the brand collapses because effectively the brand has stepped away? Have you seen that? I have. I've worked with a business owner who really did want to take a step away. He had a few things going on that meant he couldn't spend as much time in the business, and the business was suffering hugely as a result because they needed a lot more of his intervention and things hadn't been set up quite right. So things like core client service, customer service, which was part of the brand, was suffering, and that he was the face of the business, and that client service and the client interaction, their USP was giving great service. However, when he stepped away from that business, that service wasn't necessarily what was being provided because of other things that were going on within the team.
So what would you say are the key things then for people to consider when it comes to valuing the business? Is it make absolutely certain that you're working, never certain which way around it is, that you're working in your business, not you're working for your business, so that you can be taken out of the loop and that there is still value there even when you're not there? Is it about caring and taking care of your customer database as well? Are those the kind of things? Is it intellectual copyright on, or intellectual property on the product or the service that you're actually providing? Is it those kind of things that you need to investigate and look at?
There are a whole suite of things that as you step away, and a really good exercise is if you go away on holiday, what falls over when you go away on holiday? What are the things that are preventing the business from operating smoothly when you step away? And it's separating yourself as an individual with the actual process or that thing occurring. So it's really not about working on or in the business. It's saying, if I remove myself from this business, can it operate as it needs to?
I can tell you right now, and I'm sure my business partner will agree with me, when I go away on holiday, the business actually improves, it runs a lot more smoothly, and it makes a lot more money when I'm not here. But I keep coming back and just mucking things up, so it's just one of those things, you know how it is. Absolutely fascinating, and I think a lot of people do find, actually that's so true, you don't know, you're laughing, but it is true. So, you know, you're identifying the value of the business. I remember a friend of mine, he was looking at buying a business, and he didn't get his head round this multiplication about how you value a business, and he was looking at what was being sold, the number of goods. I'm making a mess of describing this, but the amount of goods he was actually selling, he felt that was the value of the business, and it isn't that. So it's a multiple of that, isn't it, normally, of the value of the business? It's
so many factors that end up in the net result of your efforts for the year. So if you look at all the effort and the team and the processes and the systems you've got behind your business that support this entity, it's really about what has been put in place to make sure it's on that trajectory.
All right, we're on the trajectory, which leads us nicely on to long-term. Business is long-term. So long-term planning, we all live in today. What's it they say? You can't do anything about yesterday. We can't do anything about tomorrow. The only thing that we can do is in the present. However, in business, it is slightly different, isn't it? Because while we can have a direct impact today on what we're doing within our business, we have to plan for tomorrow. So long-term planning. How far forward do you plan? It's a bit like the business plan, isn't it? You remember the business plan, don't you? That's the one that's in the safe that you update on a regular basis and you read it just to remind you what your business is all about. But so what about long-term planning? I mean, how do we go about that? And do we have different stages? How do you advise your clients?
When a business owner sets up, they start with doing what they love. And I think starting with the end in mind would be great, but it's something that doesn't necessarily happen because they do what they love and they love what they do. So
they would do it for free, wouldn't they, at that point? Yes.
Yes,
but that is the trouble, isn't it? They would do it for free. The business makes no money whatsoever, but I love what I do, so I do it for free.
So I've been working with business owners who are extremely successful and they would like to see their family take over. But doing this controlled shifting of various elements from one person to the other is very emotional and quite difficult because we're so it's so ingrained in us that this has to be done, this client needs something, that needs to be ordered, whatever it is, and it just gets done. So looking ahead and saying perhaps what I would loosely term your exit strategy is, or if you've got a succession plan, what that succession plan is. It's making sure you understand long term, if this business goes for 20 years, what are you going to do with it in the end? And I think it's something people tend to deal with when perhaps they've not had a huge amount of time. So I'll give you an example. I've worked with a couple of clients, a father and a son, a partnership.
Then that was easy.
It was really, really great fun working with them, and I've seen it again with mother and son relationships and so on. There's so many different dynamics, but if you want to step away, if the father wanted to step away, how was he going to do that and have the business achieve the same turnover? And they didn't know where to start. So we put a plan in place and we knew the key 4 or 5 things that the son needed to do. And unfortunately, Dad fell ill over Christmas, so he needed to exit more speedily than was planned. But it made a huge difference because what it did was it really crystallized what needed to happen sooner rather than later. And it did put a really good seed in their mind that this was a good thing and that it needed to be followed through, because 2 years before that they had planned to do the succession plan, i.e. the son taking ownership of the business, but there were a few things in play there. The son probably didn't have the confidence, probably didn't know what to focus on, and Dad was quite happily to keep being involved. So when you see a business owner struggling with how to best hand things across, and it doesn't need to necessarily be family, we're talking about managers who want to actually put an equity stake in the business and knowing that that business will continue because you've got, you know, new blood in the business, new passion in the business. It's really making sure you can look at that and plan that and do it in a controlled fashion rather than letting everything fall by the wayside and then having to do it in a huge rush and perhaps not in the best of situations.
So just consider it. So consider that forward planning. It is important to be actually doing. My guest of the day's show is Theda Gray. She's the Business Solutions Manager of OI Business Solutions, and we're looking at how to overcome the obstacles of business growth and also how you should forward plan as well, for that matter. So that's what we're talking about today's edition of the show. Got more for you to come in just a few moments' time. If you're watching Theda and you're thinking to yourself, what, it's a great name, by the way. Does it have any? Is there a meaning to it? Like, for instance, Stephen is fit to wear a crown. Now, why do I know that? I don't know. What does it mean?
Theda is named after an American actress from the 1950s called Theda Bara. Theda Bara, actually.
Oh, really?
Lady, yeah.
Any acting skills, any acting attributes yourself?
I do, but I'd rather not mention them. But yeah, thank you, Steve.
Oh yes, say no more, Squire. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Okay. Let's move smartly on then, shall we? We'll leave that alone. Okay, then. Now, if you're enjoying today's programme and you're enjoying Thena's performance as well, and the way she's presenting the concepts and the ideas that we're talking about here on what you should be considering when you're looking at your business, and you're thinking, crikey, that's really professional, but you feel perhaps you don't have those skills yourself, then what we operate or run is a course called How to Handle the Media. Obviously, over the past month or so, we've seen a number of people who've had to stand in front of TV cameras, be interviewed by different reporters, particularly in the world of politics. And some people have made absolute shambles of it. Some people have been very, very good. There's always that danger that as a business owner, something may come about and you may find that you're presented with an opportunity to promote your business and you really don't have a Scooby-Doo on how to go about it. Well, we here at Business Connections Live run a training course. It's called How to Handle the Media. You come in and we do a interview with you, a TV interview. However, we do tell you how to go about handling it, how to avoid questions, how to answer them clearly, how to understand not to make policy up on the hoof, which is a nightmare if you do. So we do that's in a TV environment, and then we do a radio training course where it's like a radio phone-in program where you answer calls from listeners about your business, and there's a really grumpy radio presenter who will just take you to task on nearly everything that you say. It's the worst it could possibly be, but what's good about it is you really learn on the day how to handle the media. Then you'll have an opportunity to do a roadside interview, an on-the-spot interview by the roadside with people shouting obscenities at you and beeping their horn as they drive by. It's very, very realistic. It's a very tiring day, but it could be a great team builder for your organisation, and it could be a great learning opportunity for your organisation as well. Now, I'll give you the details in just a moment, but if you'd like to find out what somebody who brought his team on the training course says about it, this is James Griffin from a company called Iris. He brought his sales team on the training course. He phoned us recently and said they really got a lot out of it. Here's what he said on the day.
I'm James Griffin from Iris Software, and my team have just completed the How to Handle the Media workshop. It was a really great course, it was really fun, and it was a really unique way for them to polish their presentation skills and learn how to answer difficult questions under pressure. So I'd highly recommend this to anybody that values those skills and really wants a great day out with their team.
James Griffin there from Iris Software explaining the virtues of coming on one of our training courses. If you'd like more details about that, you can contact us here at Business Connections Live simply by dropping us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com. You can always give us a call if you wish as well on 01784 256 777. You can follow us with our Train of Consciousness on Twitter at BCL Business TV, or do watch our programmes as well. Not only on YouTube, because we're there obviously, but also on Facebook Live as well. So Facebook, just go to the Business Connections Live page and you'll find out more about what we're all about there too. And you can watch the programs, leave your comments. We love receiving your comments. If you watch any of the shows and you think to yourself, I really want to say something about that, then please do get in touch with us. The other thing as well, we're going to be starting very shortly little 5-minute 10-minute interviews that we're going to be doing with different people from around the UK about business topics at that precise moment. So we're going to Skype people and FaceTime them in as well to the programme. We'll do a quick interview with them so that we can actually get some kind of a real live feedback, a real live feel to what businesses are trying to achieve out there at the moment and what maybe some of the problems and obstacles are that they're seeing. So that's all to come, something to look out for here on Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Thena Gray, Business Solutions Manager of OI Business Solutions, looking at how to overcome the obstacles of business growth. We've worked our way terrifically through our list, and it's been an interesting time. What about how you can stretch what you have. Now, a lot of businesses, I know this, we all feel under-resourced. We feel we don't have the time, we feel we don't have the resources, we don't have the finances. We talked earlier on about understanding what to do. And sometimes when you go, for instance with finances, sometimes when you go to the bank, and you talk to the bank manager's living in a completely different world. He may well be the financial expert in the banking industry, but he doesn't understand what it's like to run a full-time business. So they'll spout off things like, well, you know, what the sales going to be. And yes, you give your best guess, but as we were just mentioning, sometimes you will order something or somebody will order from you and then delay it by a month, not pay you for 3. And there's all these things. And of course, in his world, when he goes on holiday, he still gets paid. but sometimes you don't. So how do you stretch the resources and the time that you have?
With a business owner who knows what they'd like to achieve and they know what they have. So if you take stock and you think, well, I know that we've got to stretch ourselves, and it can be on so many levels. So there is great funding available for business owners. They may need a little bit of help, a bit of a cushion, I'd call it. I don't like to use technical terminology, as you can guess from this interview, but it's really around if they need a bit more of a cushion. Do they know maybe they have spoken to the bank manager and the bank manager has not given them the answer they wanted? Can they actually go to other places for support and help?
Do they understand they can go elsewhere for funding and things? Do a lot of people have business owners got it in their head the place to go for money is the bank? Do they understand they can go elsewhere?
There are other options, and in fact, why not shop around? I think as a business owner, we tend to maybe get supplier quotes with some things, but with other things we don't tend to shop around. Again, back to price. But when you are looking at getting funding, perhaps debt or equity funding, I think it's really, really important to be able to make an informed decision and know what your options are. If you've got that plan in place, it's really knowing what those options are and saying, right, what do we want to do going forward? And even short term, a bit of debt funding may be just the thing you need in your business. The other thing is, it's not just looking at what you have resource-wise in terms of cash. It's making sure you know, if you've got a team, do you get input from those valued people? And if you say you're valuing them, are you actually gathering what they're saying to maybe tap into their motivations and get the most out of your team? Are you reviewing everything that happens in your business? Can you look at that and not only grow but improve various aspects in the business? And leaving no stone unturned, because it can make a huge difference. That's how you can stretch what you have. And perhaps when you think about it yourself, you may think of a few things, and it's always having a fresh pair of eyes looking at something, because you may not realize all the options open to you because of all the things you have to do that day.
When it comes to looking for investment into the business, so you've looked at the gambit that's available there, you've investigated, you've talked to different people about the money. What about bringing people in to invest into a business as well? Have you advised companies to consider that, to look at that?
Well, when a business is invested in, it's not just the vehicle or the entity that's looked at, it's actually the structure and the team behind that who are equally important. So it's making sure they understand that they may need to invest in themselves, or they may have to bring in a complement of other team members who can best work within that team to take them to that next level in the business.
All right, okay. So really, we've worked our way through the entire gambit, I suppose. And I mean, obviously, very shortly, I'm going to ask you just to really give us a bit of a rundown on the key takeaways from this. But, you know, going back to the single business owner, if there was a single piece of advice that you would give them right now, before you give the takeaways, a bit like you're going to repeat yourself, I understand that, but if there was a piece of advice that you would give them, what would it be? What is the thing that scares you the most when you walk into a business? We've looked at it, it's that understanding. Can you see it in the personality, the character of the individual? Are there moments that you will walk away from an organisation and go, do you know, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you because you don't get it? Does that ever happen? It
really does boil down to time and making sure that if the the want and the desire for that picture, that vision you've got, is strong enough and powerful enough to inject some form of action for that business owner. I think if you understand you've tried hard enough and you're banging your head against the wall, really that picture you have for your business and what you want to achieve as a business owner, it's really key to be able to step away and say, am I actually achieving what I want to? And that tends to overcome the obstacles, the barriers to growth, maybe the business owner not being able to. And it's about being able to commit the time, because it is absolutely key to the whole change and that process of change.
Well, it does seem that it's all about the time. If you're not putting the time into your organisation, if you're not putting the planning perhaps into your organisation, then you perhaps may be missing a bit of a trick at the moment. If you want to find out more about Theda, then you can go to the website. This is actually now slightly different. This is Oxford Innovation, which is part of the business, isn't it? There's OI Innovation, isn't it? A business innovation. But you can find out more about their expert coaching, their business academy, the growth tools, a little bit about the team. I notice that if we go to the team and skills, you've got a fine team of people, and there you are down the bottom there, and you can find out more about Theda, what she does there. Combines the disciplines of management accounting to encourage sound strategic decision making, and holistic diagnostic covers business and financial strategy, sales planning, reviewing processes and business efficiency, systems and software, financial and management control, and softer facets around the structure of the team. Crikey, you're ever so busy, aren't you? And it's that complete gambit, isn't it? It's the complete organisation. It's going in there and providing a complete solution to businesses. We always invite our guests when they come on the programme to give us the key takeaways from the programme. What's important for the business owner. I suppose before you say that, is it important about the size of the business? Do you only talk to business owners, or do you talk to businesses up to a certain size, or even small to medium to large corporates? Is size important?
Steve, we are focusing on SMEs, small to medium enterprises.
So how do you define that?
In terms of size, they tend to be post-startup, so they're really in the revenue generation phase of the business, and it might be helpful to describe it in terms of employee numbers. So they'd have probably around, depending on their offering, between 5 to 10 employees up to about 50. When the business owner and the owner-run business gets larger, it really tends to get that cut down.
Okie dokie then. All right then. So in that case, let's talk, now that we've identified the business, let's talk about the key takeaways that we have. Now, we always invite our guests to do this straight down. Camera number 1 is the camera, so just say who you are, where you're from, take a breath, and the key things that we as business owners need to remember, and the airways are all yours.
Thank you. My name's Theda Gray from Oxford Innovation, OI Business Solutions, and the key takeaways I'd love for you to take away today are: step away from your business if you're an owner-managed business, and really make sure that you are achieving what you'd like to from your business. Please make sure you take the time to think about what you'd like to achieve and who is doing what in your business. Are your products and services working well, and what profitability are you making on those particular products and services? Know your stuff. Do you know what decisions you need to make and what information is relevant? Do you know your break-even point? Do you understand the key information that will help the livelihood and the strength of your business? So understanding your P&L and balance sheet, or getting someone to help you with that. And really knowing how to stretch your business. Get the most out of your business and your team. Get the help in that you need to make sure your staff are motivated and you're getting the help on the processes you need to hone in on. And enjoy working in your business, knowing that you're achieving the vision you're ultimately striving for. Thank you. That's Theda Gray at OI Business Solutions.
Listen, that's fantastic, and really great advice there as well. Listen, if you are running a small business at the moment, you really do need to be considering all these things. And I suppose this takes us right back to the very beginning as well, where we started today's program. If you are running around like a headless chicken within your organisation at the moment, and you're not getting the time to do any particular job particularly well, then you really do need to stop for a second and just take stock of what you are doing. Do you understand exactly what your cash flow is trying to achieve at the moment, or what it is showing you? There's nothing worse than having a cash flow forecaster sitting in front that you don't understand, that isn't giving you the management information that you need to make an intelligent decision on the information that's been presented to you. And what is your long-term plan for your business? I think there are a lot of businesses out there at the moment, or there are a lot of consultants out there that will encourage you to say, what is your exit plan? And in fact, it may not be an exit plan that you're looking for. Maybe you're going to be quite happy. I would imagine you come across this with some entrepreneurs. They are going to be quite happy to work until the day they drop, and they put them in the box and they put flowers on top of them. And so there's going to be those situations as well. So if you are that, then maybe that's what you should be working towards. But what about illnesses when they come in? Are they going to impact the business? Will the business still be able to maintain you as well, for that matter? These are all the things that you've got to consider. If you want to find out more about Theda, you can go to the website. If you go to OI Business Solutions, just go to their website, or have a look for oxfordinnovationservices.co.uk. Just go along to their website and you'll be able to find out more information about the kind of support that they can actually give you when it comes to organising your business and growing your business as well, for that matter. Theda, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us today on this edition of Business Connections Live. Well, just a little bit of housekeeping to do before we walk out the door. I shall get the appropriate piece of paper. Next week's show is going to be a really interesting one. Look, she's doing the old newsreader stuff. We'll do it together, shall we? There we go. On next week's show, our guest is going to be Mark Tillotson. He's the Managing Director of Tillotson Consulting and Digital Marketing Agency, with advice on social media opportunities for businesses in 2016. We talk a lot about social media. I think sometimes that we are a bit blasé. It isn't just good enough to be going, here's what I had for dinner today, and putting that out on social media, or look at the latest, greatest widget that we've got. You can do more with social media. Facebook is a case in question. Look at what you can now do. You can target business customers very precisely. Do you use LinkedIn effectively? Do you use that to grow your business? Do you use LinkedIn to go out there prospecting for new clients? And is that going to change now that Microsoft have bought them? It's going to be an interesting time when it comes to the different social media platforms. Also coming up in the future, we've got Deborah Hume. She's the Director of Minerva Engagement. James Potter, the LinkedIn man. And we've also got a Business Connections Live special on the hurdles for SMEs when tendering for government and PLC contracts. If you are working in procurement in a large multinational at the moment, do you waste people's times because it says in your processes that you have got to get 3 quotes for every job that you do? Do you know how much time that puts small businesses, how much effort small businesses put into those tenders, how much time you waste of these small business owners? Start thinking again. We talk about this. It's going to be an interesting debate. We would love, by the way, to hear from a multinational procurement manager to justify why large businesses do that to small businesses. If you're up for it and you fancy coming on the program, get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live, because large organisations, because they have got a procedure, waste small businesses' time. Here's the email. If you're up for it, it's not going to be a fight. It'll be a heated discussion. studio@businessconnectionslive.com is our email address. Get in touch with us here, and we'd love to hear from you. It must be time to run those credits, I think. From me, Steve Highland, and also from Theda Gray as well. Theda, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. Why don't we do it all again next week then? Okay, live Monday at midday. But from me, Steve Highland, and all the team here at Business Connections Live, have a great week and make as much money as you can. Bye for now. Bye-bye.